Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Another huge week for the market. We had the Challenger Decklists announced yesterday, and that was a huge story from Wizards. Actually, you can check out the video. I'll link it at the end of this video if you missed the full deck list. But as you can imagine, they're having a pretty big impact on the standard market. And we already knew the modern market was in upheaval because of the information that came out a couple weeks ago. So with all that being said, we're going to explore those two. And as always, we're going to check out what's going on in the world of Legacy. There's some buyouts that are interesting. Not to mention, of course, Pauper's still hot. So a lot to get into. I want to get started quickly, just really fast though. If you're looking for a way to support what we do here at the channel, just check out the description below. You'll find a few ways, one of which is our Patreon page that's linked below. You'll also find some product links on Amazon if you make any purchases. Really anything you buy on Amazon, once you go through that initial link, we'll get a small percentage. And finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers. And if you use that promo code, you can save yourself some cash, and we'll also get a small percentage of your purchase as well to go towards the channel. And they actually have some good deals right now on Masters 25 after the promo code. So check that out if you're interested. But with that being said, let's get into the information for today. We'll start off, as we always do, with standard and the top 5 standard cards that have lost value this week. So as you can imagine, we're definitely going to see an impact here from the announcement yesterday in just a moment. But let's start off with number 5. And that's Metallic Mimic. Down 66 cents to $8.55. So, unfortunately, the tribal decks aren't really taking hold in this new meta. I mean, they seemed pretty cool, maybe had some potential at the beginning, especially Merfolk, but it's really been falling off the competitive scene recently. Now, this card was a part of the Merfolk decks, at least a lot of the builds, and it's also part of the Vampire decks, which are still kind of kicking around, but not necessarily putting up huge results either. So take that into consideration. It's a very good card for those type of decks, but with those decks falling off a little bit, this card's going to continue to drop. Number 4, Hazoret the Fervent, down $1.15 to $20.49, one of the key cards in the current meta right now. However, we saw the deck list for the Challenger decks yesterday, and guess what? This is actually in the mono-red Challenger deck. So, Hazoret, you will get one copy if you buy that deck, and the retail price is $29.99. Now, this time I have no reason to believe that they're going to hold back on production of these things. My assumption will be they will be in big box stores as well as LGSs, and if that's the case, and I think a lot of people are speculating on that too, these cards will be going down in value. There's going to be a lot of them entering the marketplace. Now, if they don't produce enough of these things, that could be a little bit different, because then the people that do get a hold of them may decide they want to pick up more copies of Hazoret or Chandra. But I don't think that's going to be the situation. I think Wizards is going to take advantage of this and make sure copies get in the hands of players that are at least thinking about the idea of getting into competitive play. And if you don't get this product into their hands, then it doesn't really accomplish its goal. So I think they're going to push pretty hard on this. So Hazoret goes down a little bit this week, as well as the next card. And that's Chandra Torch of Defiance coming at number 3, down $1.26 to $28.73. So yes, this is actually in the same deck. So that's pretty good value for $29.99, right? And I'm sure that particular deck will sell out quick, even at big box stores. So if you want that one, you might want to be on top of it. But the other ones have great value too. Chandra, just one of the key cards right now in the format, but because of the announcement yesterday, ticks down. Number 2, Ajani Valiant Protector, down $1.40 to $10.25 this week. And this is one of the Planeswalker deck Planeswalkers from Aether Revolt, so you can't find this in the regular packs. And as I mentioned last week, Saffron Olive from MTG Goldfish put an interesting brew together on the website a week ago, and it captured a lot of people's attention. It was a Time Stream Navigator deck, which of course used this as one of the ways to continually find your Time Stream Navigators. And it was one of those decks that was meant to be kind of a fun deck. It wasn't something that was, I don't think, supposed to take down the meta or anything. But those decks do sometimes, when they hit the right spot and people are interested in them, they can impact the market, and that was the case with this particular card last week. But as you can imagine, it's already starting to snap back. Number 1, Kumina Tyrant of Araska, down $1.90 to $17.10. So I already mentioned earlier that the tribal deck's not doing as hot in the meta as maybe a lot of people expected. And you could say that, of course, about the Merfolk deck. And because of that, this one is going down pretty quickly in value. Now, the only reason this isn't going down faster, and is probably not already a $10, $12, $13 card, is because of Commander. This is actually a really cool Commander card. A lot of people are trying to put together Merfolk decks, making this the Commander. All right, let's move on to Standard with cards that have gained value this week. But before we get to our top 5, just a couple honorable mentions. I just wanted to bring these up because I do get some questions about them. But the Rivals of Ixalan basic lands have actually been kind of hot and cold. They've been spiking a little bit, and then when they spike, more enter the marketplace, they go back down. But a lot of the reason for this is because the art is actually really striking, and they're not lands that you'll find in every single pack. You usually get an Ixalan land, actually. It looks like it's about a third or so. When I opened a fat pack, it was a third of the lands were from Rivals. The rest were from Ixalan. So I'm assuming that probably carries over into booster packs as well. So something to keep in mind, and hopefully that answers the question out there why these kind of go up and down. But remember, they are basic lands. Eventually they'll stabilize down. But Forest goes up a little this week, 27 cents to 86 cents. And Swamp goes up 27 cents to 88 cents. All right, number 5 is Liliana Death's Majesty, up 23 cents to 716. She has a little uptick this week. She's seeing some play in Standard and like mid-range style decks. Number 4, getting into the Trials, up 26 cents to 985. So Gideon was losing a lot of value for a long time, and I had said all along that, Gideon's not seeing the play a lot of people anticipated, but he's seeing enough play that he's probably like a $9, $10 card, and that's actually where it appears maybe he has landed. So that's actually good for anyone that was excited about this card initially and wants to find a use for it. And there are some really cool uses for it, one of which is Modern Control. Now, of course, Modern is an upheaval right now. Will Gideon stay in that type of control deck? Remains to be seen. I mean, maybe he gets elbowed out by Jace. I don't know. But we'll have to kind of wait and see how that pans out. But as far as Standard goes, yeah, if you look at the approach control decks and Standard, Gideon's always showing up in there. Gideon's also in some of these cat decks, these Selesnya cat decks. So there are definitely places to use this card. Number 3 is Zora's Gateway, up 40 cents to 647. This is a card that a lot of people have played around with in Legacy and Vintage builds. We'll have to kind of see if that sticks, things like Eldrazi Post and stuff. But when it comes to Standard, yeah, this card is seeing play in some places there too. There was a deck that actually came in 3rd place last week in the Standard Classic, and it was kind of a unique build, an acquisition deck, Golgari colors, basically a control-ish style deck. And it's not something that came out of nowhere because it was being seen on Magic Online, but this was one of the better performances that it has had in paper. That was actually kind of interesting. That deck runs this. And also, of course, you'll find this in like your approach decks and stuff too. So yeah, it's definitely found a role in Standard, ticks up a little bit this week. As for Commander too, you're maybe not as worried about the backside of the card when it comes to Standard, but in Commander, you can do some crazy things with the Sanctum of the Sun. Number 2 is Paradox Engine, up 66 cents to 1055. Speaking of Commander, financially, not a huge increase here, and you've noticed that for the most part, the Standard cards are starting to stabilize a little bit. But because other cards are stabilizing, you're starting to see some Commander cards filter their way in, and this is one of them. This has been a very, very strong card in spiky Commander decks, and it has a nice increase this week. Number 1, all right, big news of the week, I think, Rekindling Phoenix. And you might say to yourself, well, not really big news. This thing's been going up week after week, up 209 this week to 2842. Now, every week I say, yeah, this card's played like everywhere. It's awesome. It's a mythic rare. It's from the new set. Packs are being opened, but it's still hard to find because the demand is so strong, yada, yada, yada. But beyond that, something new this week you have to consider. Now that we know about these Challenger decks, and there's no Rekindling Phoenixes in those decks, and there's 2 Challenger decks that probably will want some Rekindling Phoenixes for upgrades, and that will be Mono Red Aggro and, of course, Vehicles. So those folks that go out and buy those decks and want to improve on them, guess what? One of the first places they're going to go is Rekindling Phoenix. This card is going to take off even more than it already has. I would not be shocked if this card gets up to $40 to $50 at some point in the not too distant future, as long as it's still good in the upcoming meta, which no reason to believe that it won't be. I think this card actually gets hotter than it is right now, believe it or not. So I think this is a strong performer going forward. Yeah, there's answers like Vraska's Contempt out there, but if your opponent doesn't have one of those answers, this thing is a nightmare. All right, let's move on to the world of Modern. And like I said, there's been a lot of brewing going on, a lot of excitement around what the new meta is going to look like, a lot of people trying to figure that out. So a lot of speculation has occurred over the last few weeks. One of the things you'll see in the lost value top 5 are cards that spiked last week that are snapping back this week, which is a normal response, so there's nothing too unusual here. Number 5 is one of those cards, Snapcaster Mage, Modern Masters 2017. down $2.35 to $70.72. Obviously, this is a card that probably gets better with Jace in the format. So a lot of people were picking this up last week, and this one has a snapback effect this week. Number 4, Celestial Colonnade, down $3.39 to $59. Kind of the same story here. This card has been really hot for a while now. It's been climbing and climbing and climbing. Stands to reason it gets better with Jace in the format. Had a nice increase last week. We're getting a little bit of snapback now off that increase this week. Also, too, with Masters 25 about to be revealed, a lot of people are going to be slightly hesitant to pick up some of the cards that maybe have not been reprinted ever, like this one, or have not been reprinted recently. But keep in mind, though, it could be a double-edged sword, because if the card like this does not show up in Masters 25 for whatever reason, then it will probably go up again. It might even spike, so just something to keep in mind. Number 3, Azusa Lost But Seeking, down $3.79 to $40.94. This is the Champions of Kamigawa version. And of course, we know that this is going to be in Masters 25 as a rare with the Judge promo art, which is kind of sweet. And this one continues to decline this week, even though it still sees play in Modern. Number 2, all right, speaking of snapbacks, Jace the Mind Sculptor has a small one. From the Vault 20 goes down $3.10 this week to $148.88. World Weight goes down $3.95 to $141.23, and Eternal Masters goes down $4.99 to $135. Nothing unusual here. This doesn't mean Jace turned out not to be good in Modern or anything like that. It just means that this was such a huge spike over the course of the last week or so, with all the hype and excitement around the fact that this card was unbanned, that now things are starting to stabilize. And when you see big spikes, they can't really hold. When they go up that high that fast, you're going to get a little bit of a crackback. That's what you're seeing here. And this is nothing unusual. But of course, Jace is still going to settle in at a much higher price point than where he was before the announcement. Number 1, Black Cleave Cliffs, down $5.08 to $42. This card has been super hot. It's been overdue for a snapback. After the Pro Tour, there was a lot of excitement around this card because people just maybe noticed that it's in a lot of good mana bases. It was in the Hollow One deck mana base, the Martyr Pyromancer mana base, it's in Dredge. It's all over the place, actually, Jund decks. So, does this get worse since the unbannings occurred? No, it doesn't get worse. It probably actually gets better. And because of that, it actually had a nice surge last week. But with all that growth, it was only a matter of time before people started to say, you know what, I got a bunch of these in my binder that I never use. I'm going to go out and sell them. And when extra copies enter the marketplace, this is what happens. Also, too, people might be waiting a little bit. Who knows? Maybe this is a reprint that we find out will be in Masters 25. So people might just wait before paying into an expensive card. But we'll be watching really closely next week and following that story because, as you can imagine, I'm sure next week's Market Watch will have a lot of ripple effects from what we find out this week as far as Masters 25 cards. All right, let's move on to the top 5 Modern cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5 is Dark Confidant. 2 versions here. Ravnica City of Guilds goes up $2.95 to $60 with Modern Masters 2015 going up $4.05 to $54.90. Another card that was hot prior to the changes, and we saw this in the Humans deck, among a lot of other places. Jund decks were still kicking around, but probably gets better now that Bloodbraid Elf is back, basically. So this card, Bob, has been very, very hot recently. Number 4, another card that's been real hot recently, Tarmogoyf. 2 versions this week to speak of. Modern Masters 2017 up $226 to $71.99, with Modern Masters 2015 going up $4.85 to $76.71. And I mentioned this one over the course of the last couple of weeks too. The Pro Tour was a reminder to everybody this card actually is still really good. We saw this in the Abzan deck in the top 8. We saw it in Traveler's Shadow in the top 8. And then something happened, of course, with Bloodbraid Elf coming back to the formats. A lot of people thinking they're going to get the Jund band back together again. This is a part of that. Not to mention, I even saw some brews on Magic Online running Jace Control with this as the wing condition. So Tarmogoyf's coming back in a big way. Number 3, Snapcaster Mage from Innistrad goes up $5.47 to $74.49. So a lot of people ask me, like, sometimes why does one version of a card go up, the other one goes down, one's higher than another when maybe the older one's lower, stuff like that. Basically, it just depends on listings that given week, and it can really change from week to week or even day to day, just depending on what people are selling cards for on that given day. So this week, Innistrad Snapcaster ends up on top and actually catches up and passes the Modern Masters 2017 version, at least for the week. As you can imagine, this will probably snap back next week, and the other one could potentially go up. Number 2, Trinisphere from Darksteel, going up $6.44 this week to $24.75 as people are trying to prepare for the new meta and the changes. they're looking for tech that can stop some of these cards, and this is a card that potentially could put a damper on Bloodbraid Elf, so it gets a pretty nice increase this week as people try to solve that puzzle. Number 1, here's the big mover. Wow. Liliana of the Veil. Modern Masters 2017 up 11.56 to 109.99. Innistrad up 12.68 to $111.28. Wow. So Liliana is just spiking through the roof right now. She was good prior to the changes. She arguably will be better now that Bloodbraid Elf is back, and even with Jace in the format. She can be played, of course, with Bloodbraid. She's part of that Jund team, right? But even beyond that, she can be good with Jace too in a controlling build, or good against Jace as well. So with all that coming into play, she gets incredibly strong financially this week and has a huge, huge week. All right, let's move on to the world of Legacy. We got some more buyouts going on, some weird things. Let's jump in with the cards that lost value. Number 5, Bronze Horse from Legends, down $21.35 to $25. So this is an example of what I was talking about. This one spiked a couple weeks ago. We've been seeing this for about 3 weeks now, but someone is buying up all the cheap Legends cards that are not on the reserve list. So all these cheap cards that got reprinted in like Chronicles, 4th edition, 5th edition, they're getting picked up and they're being bought out and resold back into the market. So this one's re-entering the market now, but you're going to see some more going up this week too. Number 4 is Diamond Valley, down $23.88 to $293.12. Number 3, Ollie from Cairo, down $47 to $253. This spiked last week, so it was kind of due for a snapback. Number 2, Force Field. This card's been hot recently. It goes down a little this week, down $54.20 to $172.49. Good card for $93.94, and I do think this card just needs to find a stable price point. It got really high for a bit and has been stabilizing over the last couple weeks. Number 1, another card that's really good at $93.94. Gauntlet of Might from Unlimited, down $64.01 to $339.99. Another card that really spiked intensely and is snapping back now. For the longest time, this card sat around $200, but it's definitely grown legitimately since then. All right, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5, here we go again. Cosmic Horror from Legends, up $17.62 to $24.99. This is not on the reserve list. This has been reprinted in 4th edition if you want a cheap copy for some reason, but this is one of those cards that's being bought out. Number 4, here's another one. Aisha Tanaka, up $19.49 to $24.89. From Legends, not on the reserve list. You can find this one in Chronicles, and as a matter of fact, you can find a lot of the cards we're going to talk about today in Chronicles. And again, sometimes these gold cards do tend to draw attention, of course, but really this does appear to be the same pattern we have been seeing, probably the same person or group of people. Number 3 is Revelation, up $21.71 to $32.50. Third verse, same as the first. This is not on the reserve list, and this card actually was reprinted in Chronicles as well. Number 2, okay, here's a normal one. Drop of Honey, up $24 to $473.24. Has a little uptick this week. And number 1, fan favorite, the Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale, of $61.70 to $1,700. All right, let's talk about a few other notable cards. I want to focus in on Pauper a little bit and talk about some of the hotter cards there, whether it's financial movement or percentage movement. Let's see what we got going on. Chittering Rats has a nice percentage move this week, up 25 cents to 77 cents. It does look like some of these cards from these control decks running either all black or maybe Dimir are heating up a little bit in the format, or at least people are gravitating towards some of the cards. This is one of them. Next is Viridian Longbow, up 28 cents to 95 cents. Again, another nice percentage increase for this card. You'll find this in the Elf decks. Moment's Peace. This is a card that's been on our list before. Up 38 cents, though, this week to $3.87. So another nice increase. You'll find this in various sideboards, but definitely a card that shows up in Elves as well as sometimes the Tron builds. Utopia Sprawl had a nice week this week, up 40 cents to $5.14. You'll find this in the Boggles decks and Pauper, but another reason this might be going up a little bit this week is because you can find this in Modern and like Land Destruction decks, and Saffron Olive did feature one of those on MTG Goldfish this week, as well as another Modern deck that was running Utopia Sprawl, which was a Cursed deck. So that alone might have moved the needle a little bit on this card. Crypt Rats up 47 cents to $3. The Visions version, which we followed a couple weeks ago, has kind of fizzled out a little bit. The 7th edition still going up. Again, another card that you'll find in these control builds. Chromatic Star, you'll find these in Affinity as well as Tron of 49 cents to 5.65. Another Pauper card that's been hot recently, the Time Spiral version, which was actually spiking heavily, has settled down a little bit, but 10th edition is still going up. And the last card for Pauper is Tangle, up 332 this week to 816. Pretty significant. It has come back a little bit over the last 24 hours. This was $10 yesterday, actually. This is a great card in Pauper, especially in the Elf decks. But do remember, I mentioned this last week too, I believe, that this was never printed as a common in paper, but technically still Pauper legal because most tournament organizers will go by the Magic Online Pauper rules, and this was a common in Vintage Masters from the Magic Online exclusive set. So always check ahead of time if you're going to play it in LGS or something like that, but for the most part, they do follow the same rules, making this legal. Alright, let's move on to a few other notable cards. Dreadbore is one. Return to Ravnica has gone up $1.07 to $5, with Archenemy Nicol Bolas going up $1.18 to $5.30. So this was already actually a pretty decent card in Modern. You'd find this in like Mardu Pyromancer. But a lot of people are gravitating towards this as a possible answer to Jace in the format. Trinisphere, this is the Masterpiece version. So I just wanted to highlight this one quickly. I usually don't highlight Masterpieces because sometimes their pricing is all over the board. There's not enough data points to truly follow it. This one looks safe enough, and because the original version was going up, this one's going up to this week $7.85 to $59.39. Mishra's Factory Antiquities Spring variant goes up $14 to $45. So I made the joke a few weeks ago. We saw the winter one spike, then we saw the summer one spike, and we saw the fall one spike. So I said it's only a matter of time before spring gets bought out. Well, it just happened. Okay, we'll end things with just a couple more cards from this Legends buyout. Axelrod Gunnarsson up $16.38 to $22.80. Again, this is not on the reserve list. You can find a copy of this in Chronicles, much cheaper. And lastly, Kai Takahashi, up $16.99 to $19.99. Again, not on the reserve list, and a card you can find in Chronicles. With that being said, we made it through the Market Watch, and I'm really excited for next week's episode already because there's going to be huge ripples with the whole Masters 25 thing. Not to mention the fact we're going to finally see some like paper gameplay with Jace and Bloodbraid in Modern. That's going to have an impact. Modern's going to get crazy. Not to mention continued fallout from these Challenger decks. I'm sure we'll see that as well. So a lot to look forward to. And of course, over the course of the week, I will be reporting out all the updates for the Masters 25 reveals. Until next time, though, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.